Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. I'm so looking forward to the conversation. We've done so much work here at the podcast. We're now covering the Detroit Lions at training camp. Got to look and review everything going on there. We're going to take a look at Michigan State and what's going on this offseason. They had their media days. We want to look at Mark D'Antonio, that offense, and obviously, everybody saw online for the second time something that was so hideous, so god-awful, that Adam and I got to talk about it. But to start the podcast, I definitely want to set forth a complaint that Adam and I talked about, and it relates to the office. And here in Sterling Heights, we obviously broadcast from an office, and we share a restroom with the other people that work here in the suite, and also we share it with the gym. And what's been happening to me lately is quite ridiculous in the sense that it's happening more and more. Now, obviously, it stinks that I don't have my own bathroom attached to the suite, but it's no problem. You know, you just got to go outside to the right, and there's a bathroom. But obviously, when you lock the door and you're getting comfortable, you're like, okay, I'm going to take this next 15 minutes to enjoy some time, check the Twitter, see if Adam's beefing with anybody online about some ridiculous nonsense. I don't even know what it is that you guys are beefing about. And then all of a sudden, you're like, okay, the thing that makes you most uncomfortable is if someone's going to walk in. So obviously, you pay attention and you lock the door. But what's been happening to me lately is, obviously I got a high-stress job. I'm doing multiple things, trying to put up with Adam, trying to put up with everybody around me. And, you just want that little bit of sanctuary. You want a place to go and have relief, and the bathroom is the best place to do it. So I go in the bathroom, and lately what's been happening is someone will inevitably shake the doorknob, and obviously it's locked, which is fine. I get it. You got to try to get in if the door's locked. But what I don't understand is, what's the purpose of continuously jiggling that doorknob to see what? Is it going to just fly open magically? I mean, and here's the thing. I think rational people can put two and two together most of the time. One, the light's on. Two, the bathroom in our suite here has that fan that goes on, okay? And obviously you'll tell me what that is, probably for the smell and air circulation and whatever that fan does, but it's loud. So if you just stand there for 1 second, instead of jiggling the fucking doorknob, and you just realize, okay, there's someone in there. And what do you think they're doing? So I don't understand the purpose of this notion, of this act.
So you're trying to take a frumpy.
Yeah.
And this person came to the door, and they continuously jiggled the handle.
Trying to get in.
Like 1 time, no. 2 times, no. 3 times, definitely not. And this person continued to try to enter the restroom while you were using it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand people. Look, jiggle it 1 time, maybe 2 times. By the 3rd time, you're kind of pushing it. And if you do it more than 3 times, there's a problem. Like you said, the light's on, the fan's going. I'm sure there was some kind of stench that was creeping out from underneath the door coming out of you. So, yeah, you just need to wait your turn. Sorry, John's there first.
Exactly. And at one point, I thought about, do I say something? It's so weird. You say, I'm in here.
It's so funny because I never know what to say. I have no idea. You'll be sitting there and it's like, occupied, I'm in here, sorry, taken. I never know what to say. What do you say when you're sitting on the can and somebody wants to get in there and use the bathroom? I have no idea what to say.
Yeah, it triggers anxiety. It triggers like you're not comfortable anymore because you're like, okay, the guy's standing out there like jiggling the doorknob. And what if he like just like if something happens, he's like, boom, okay, now he sees my feet there, and he's like, oh, the door was locked. Yeah, it was locked. There's someone in here. That's the whole purpose of the door being locked. And the part that's also infuriating is it's not like there's a push button. You know what I mean? In the doorknob, it's obviously when you see it, if you grab onto the door and it's locked, that means that usually someone's going to be in there. It doesn't mean it's broken or anything. Or does it mean to them like, oh, the harder I shake it, the door is going to pop open? I think it's weird, and I'm confused by that notion. It's infuriating because of the fact that, you're trying to be comfortable, and I think it should register. For me, when I go to the bathroom door, I hit the doorknob, and immediately if it's locked, I'm like, oh, dang, I got to wait. That's it. You obviously maybe if you want to do the secondary check and look to see if the light's on to make sure, because yes, I have used the bathroom and kept the door locked, but I have something here that can allow me to open it if I make that mistake. But I find it frustrating in that I don't understand the purpose of that. It's not going to be something that's open. And I do think probably people would expect that somebody would say something. But yeah, it's not comfortable when you're trying to handle your business after 5-6 hours of work, or you're at Allen Park and you're trying to get that quality interview, get that soundbite, and you come back and you're like, time to relax, and someone's in there handling their business. And
so how did this all end? Did they just go away? You didn't say anything, right?
No.
You stayed ninja silent.
I stayed ninja silent. You know what they inevitably do? Guess what they do? They walk over to the women's bathroom.
Really?
Of course. If you have to go to the bathroom,
No.
Yeah, of course, and it happens all the time. I've done it. If you got to go bad enough, you just walk right next door, and because
no way.
Yeah, of course. If you have to go bad enough, now I'm not saying number 2, but if you got to go bad enough and you can't hold it anymore, and the guy's bathroom's locked, I've gone into the women's bathroom.
For real?
Yeah, you've never done it?
No,
you've never
even anywhere.
Oh, wow. Well, okay, this is different. This is not a sporting event where there's 2 distinct things and there's going to be a lot of people. This is an office with maybe 12 people that work in a gym. So, by and large,
I guess.
Yeah, by and large, and the restrooms, because you've not been in it, are exactly the same. There's one stall, and then, women obviously don't have the stand-up stall, but there's one spot to sit, and there's one less, obviously the guys has the spot to sit and the one stand-up stall. So
right.
So basically it's identical. So you can just walk in there, go to the sit down one, and handle your business and get out quickly. So luckily I have not, because obviously now that I've exposed that I do this, the next time I open the door is going to be someone standing there going, "What are you doing?" And I'll be like, "Look, the door was locked. I had to go. Sorry."
Have you ever had that happen where you're coming out of the ladies' room and there's a lady going in?
No. Thank goodness that would be.
How would you explain that away?
I would immediately say, I would say right away, sorry, the men's was locked. And she'd be like, so? You're not supposed to do that. I'd be like, look, you got to think about number 1. Sorry, man, bye.
I mean, not since I was probably a small child and my mom had to take me to the bathroom have I been in the ladies' room to use the facilities.
See, that's why this is fun, is because you and I, in the way we live our lives, sometimes we do stuff and expose it to the other, like, oh my God, someone could actually do this. Yeah, yeah. So if the guy's one's busy and you got to go somewhere, because I know you take bathroom breaks during our recording, just walk across to the ladies' one.
That's right.
That's right. How's life with you over there in Indy? You had a good week?
Oh yeah, man, it's not too bad. Just kind of settling in a little bit more. Still don't have a job. Working on that. Got a couple things going. Hopefully something turns up here soon. The wife is starting to look at me with that slanted eye, and she's like, "Are you going to do something? Are you going to get a job? Can you help pay some bills?" And I'm like, "I'm working on it." And then I go to the gym for 3 hours. So,
I would say this before we start talking about the Lions. What's the biggest difference living there as opposed to living here in Metro Detroit?
Man, the cities are similar. South Bend is much smaller, and it's a much smaller community. Like, everybody knows everybody's business. So, like, I grew up in Hamtramck, so everybody knew everybody's business. So this isn't like a culture shock to me. This was a total culture shock to Lorraine. She was like, everybody knows everybody's business. I'm like, yeah, it's like Hamtramck. Everybody knows everybody. So it's just kind of one of those deals. Honestly, man, it is very similar to Detroit. Every time I turn around, I find a similarity to Detroit. And I don't think it's all that shocking. I will say this: the personality out here is a little bit different. In Detroit, a little bit more of an edge, a little bit more aggressive. Here, more laid back, not as in your face. And honestly, it's like suburbia, and it's just kind of low key. It's like that white picket fence is best way I can describe it. But all that being said, it's still kind of trapped out around here. Like 2 weeks ago, we had we live in an actual nice part of town. We live like right next to downtown South Bend, which legitimately is like 2 blocks long. But there was a shooting like a block and a half down at the corner bar. There's this corner bar. It's called Corby's. It's like the Notre Dame hangout spot. And there was a shooting there like 2 weeks ago. And one of the bullets ended up coming into our apartment complex, not my specific unit, but the unit next to my unit. And then a couple of weeks ago, like 10 people got shot. So it's still kind of trapped out. Like I said, it's just like Detroit. You got your good, you got your bad. It's a mix of people. So it's interesting, man.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, I guess I didn't think to say stay safe out there. Holy cow.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it, bro.
Yeah, no doubt.
Lorraine's like, so because she works in the trauma unit, so she sees all the gunshots come in. She's like, it's worse than where we lived. I was like, no place is worse than where we lived. Unless you're going over to Afghanistan during wartime, no place is worse than where we lived. The block over from the block that we lived on was called Crack Alley. No place is worse than this. But she sees all the gunshots, you know what I'm saying? So she's like, it's horrible. It's absolutely brutal. And I'm like, it's really not. You're just aware of it. It was the same thing that was going on just a block over from our house. It's just now you're aware of it because it comes in and it's on your desk.
Oh, you really can't escape it anywhere you go. But, yeah, you guys are safe and you guys do what you got to do. And, yeah, get yourself a job, man. You got to get a job.
I know. I'm working on it, bro. I'm working on it.
And no doubt. But, hey, day by day, I'm glad you had the opportunity at least to have a couple weeks off to kind of settle in and get things situated. And it's an opportunity for you to kind of change it up a little bit and see what's out there. And I think it's a good opportunity. Sometimes change is good to revitalize things, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. This is a new experience. And honestly, making connections is probably one of the best things you can do. And hopefully some of those connections lead to doors opening up for you, and we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Second half of the podcast, we definitely are going to talk about Michigan football and Michigan State football. Jim Harbaugh, Mark D'Antonio. It was interesting to listen to Jim Harbaugh be candid on a great podcast, the Pardon My Take podcast. But in the first part of the podcast, I did want to talk a little bit and discuss my time out there at training camp. It's been awesome, man. I know everyone's seen the coverage. People have seen me asking questions to Tom Brady, to Matthew Stafford, to Matt Patricia. Man, cuz I really feel like all the reporting that I've done before covering the Lions has really made the transition easier. And I did get lucky to be right up there. There were 50 people trying to talk to Tom Brady, and it's surreal. And I know someone on my Facebook said, hey, stop being a fanboy. But I think that's what makes me different than a lot of the people is that I have the professional experience. I have another perspective being a psychologist and asking questions in that kind of way. But yeah, I'm a fan. Of course, how could you not be a fan of the arguably one of the 2 greatest position players ever? You know what I mean? It's Tom Brady. So when he walks there and starts talking, of course, you're not going to be like, oh my God, it's Tom Brady. But in your mind, you're like, oh my God, it's Tom Brady. And so it's great. And like I said, the best part of this has been sharing it with you along the way. And I'm frank, I'm not going to be like, yeah, I'm kicking this 100% serious. And I'm not going to be, I'm not going to let my and of course, I'm not going to mark out in front of them. But internally, if you're a guy that's into sports, okay, and you follow along and you see greatness, if somebody who's great walks in and you're not like, damn, that's fucking Bill Belichick, then you're not in the right business. You're not supposed to be doing this. Because if I ever lost that, I wouldn't do this anymore. Because the excitement that I felt interviewing Tom Brady or being in the room with Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia, the excitement that I felt got me there, got me up at 6:30 in the morning, got me to Allen Park by 8 to be there an hour early so I could get a seat because there's going to be 100 media members there. If you're not passionate about sports. And I know some people will say, oh, don't be a fanboy. Look, for me personally, being a quote-unquote journalist is not the title I'm seeking. I'm just me, and that's the kind of title I would want people to say is, hey, that's Doc. That's it. You don't got to call me a journalist, a fan. You don't got to label me anything. It's like, look, that's Doc. He's got information. He's got some kind of following, and he wants to put it out there for the people. Look, I could go there literally. I have the full right to go there, experience everything, and keep it all to myself and just say, oh, wow, this is cool. But no, I share it with you. I share it with everybody. You're getting the emails. You know I'm sending what these people are saying in these meetings because of the fact that, hey, it's exciting. It's like, look, it's something that's new that we don't get to see a lot of, and it's our first go-around. And maybe in a couple years, if this continues, it'll be less like, so, you know, I hope not, but I think that for me, it's so great to be out there, to be at training camp, to be part of seeing how these guys operate. Tom Brady and how he practices. I actually saw, it was interesting because obviously I don't go to practice a lot. Tom Brady did stumble in one of those drills. The video that I put with him stepping over, obviously I got him doing it well. One of the drills, he actually tripped on one of those pylons and fell over, and he was not happy. So it was cool to see a little bit of it was cool to see some of the intricacies of practice, to see the execution of some drills, and to see the matchups. But no doubt about it, for me personally, my favorite drill is the one where, okay, the offensive lineman lines up, the defensive lineman lines up, and they go one-on-one. And it's man versus man, 300-pounder versus 300-pounder, and they're battling and banging against each other. Yeah, the 7-on-7 drills, the passing, the situations that they run are great to see, meaning that they'll start at the 20, and they'll put a score up, and they'll put a down and distance situation to execute. But for me, it was right there in my end zone seeing these linemen battle each other, and I would have gotten there early just to see that. That was something to see because I was right there, that drill. Luckily, some vantage points are not the best, but luckily this vantage point that I got to see that drill, I was inspired, man. These guys are banging against each other, and, man, to be a lineman, that's a tough gig. Tough gig, no doubt, but to have the Patriots come into Allen Park, you would be crazy not to be excited to see one of the best run organizations competing against the team that, you follow and cover here in Detroit. It was a great experience seeing the Patriots. And obviously, I think both teams will get better working against each other because obviously Patricia is doing a lot of similar things, obviously installing a hill, running practice the same way. And obviously, that's why I think it's great that the Lions are going to practice with the Houston Texans and the Patriots. I hope it continues. I think it's great. Obviously, they're practicing because the Patriots are going to play tonight versus the Lions, but it's the first preseason game, so you're not going to really see a lot of the starters. But I hope that you guys have liked the coverage, seeing that I asked some questions that did get out there and get picked up. So I really liked it. It was a great experience, and one in which I said, hey, I had expectations. It far exceeded my expectations to go out there and be part of the media.
I want to circle back to the fanboy comment. So when we put this podcast together over 6 years ago now, the whole point of it was to be the voice of the fan. It was to be the voice of the common man. So when people say that you're fanboying out, that's what we are. That's what we bring. That's why this platform exists. It's so the average person, the average Joe, gets to have a voice and gets to say what they want to say. And there's nobody that's going to tell us otherwise. We run this thing. So we can say whatever the hell we want, however the hell we want to say it. And you know what? If there's consequences, then we deal with those ramifications. But for you to go out there and to be able to meet Tom Brady, arguably the greatest quarterback ever, and to ask him a question about the University of Michigan, and for him to respond to you, him to look at you and respond to you, that's awesome. For you to sit in the same meeting room as Bill Belichick and just kind of take it all in, that's awesome, man. That's great. The whole fanboy thing, go pack sand. Like for real, go pack sand. That's what this podcast is. That's why we exist. We're here to be the voice of everybody who's listening. The fact that we're able to get the credentials and to be able to go into these rooms and to have these interactions with these players, we're just fans who got lucky enough to have an idea and stuck with it, and we broke through.
Yeah, and I think here's my interpretation of why people have a negative connotation of fanboy, because it signifies that, oh, you're just gonna be pro athlete and be pro whatever. Okay, but remember,
That's not the case.
Exactly.
That's never been the case on this podcast.
Exactly.
We've hammered people time in and time out.
Exactly. And that's the whole point, is that fanboy has a connotation of like, oh, you're just going to be pro team all the time. But at the very least, all you got to do is look at the scenario as a Michigan State grad. And I did, for part of like, I'll be honest, for 5 seconds, I did think to say, to Tom Brady, so you think Michigan State's going to win the Big Ten this year? I did think for 5 seconds to say, but then I said, okay, no, I'm not going to ask that. I just wanted to ask about Michigan, and because I felt like, okay, it's relevant. And when you do go to these things, you do have a couple things in your mind, because obviously people wanted to ask. The first go-around was, the first wave of questions was the contract extension. And I'm going to ask you about that too, because we were talking before we started recording. People wanted to know about that, and obviously it was only the second time he spoke to the media, so a lot of the Boston media wanted to know about his training camp and stuff like that. So obviously, if Tom Brady's in town and he's a huge Michigan supporter from Michigan, you're going to ask that. And I was lucky because it was at the time when the media PR person said, okay, one more question, and obviously there's so many people, but I'm standing right in front. And the reason why I got to stand in front was because of a relationship that I had built, and it worked out perfectly, and I got lucky to be standing right there, whereas others actually posted photos of them being behind the scrum. Literally, there were 50 people there with Tom Brady and things like that. But I want to ask you this, because it's an interesting talking point. Tom Brady's 42. People were kind of confused about the contract extension. Yes, he did get 3 years, but the terms of the deal make it so that the Patriots can't tag him. They can't renegotiate the deal to favor the club. It basically, Tom Brady got a raise. He's going to play out this year. And in essence, at the end of the year, Tom Brady will be a free agent. So I'll ask you this, because you and I were talking about it. Do you think it's going to finish where Tom Brady finishes his career with the New England Patriots? Or do you say, you know what, he's 42 years old, 20 years, making, they gave him a payday right now this year. If it doesn't work out, is it now time for Bill Belichick? And he's got the ultimate tough job, because he could look like the ultimate bad guy, because obviously the majority of fans are going to be like, look, the man gave you 6 rings. Who cares if he has a couple down years? Let him play it out and deal with it. But that's not Bill Belichick's role. Bill Belichick's role is to say, I got to put out the best team possible. You think Tom Brady finishes his career with the Patriots? And should he? Is it the right move? Because I'm thinking, you know what? 42 years old, making a bunch of money. If you go younger and you got a system in place and you trust McDaniels and he's there, I wouldn't, if I was in the meeting room, I wouldn't shut down the idea of saying, thanks, Tom, we're going in a different direction. He brought it up. He said, look, I'm not above any other NFL athlete. This is uncharted territory, because there haven't been too many of them, legendary quarterbacks that are 42 that are commanding over $20 million. It's a fascinating situation for him.
Who is Tom Brady's idol? Who's the guy that he looked up to growing up as a child? It was Joe Montana. Joe Montana was the San Francisco 49ers. Joe Montana ended up going to play in Kansas City and finished his career playing in Kansas City. I think it's very possible that happens with Tom Brady. Ooh. Tom Brady ends up leaving the New England Patriots and finds his way to another team. And again, it's just how Bill Belichick operates. That's how that system operates. The one thing that I could see preventing that from happening is Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft and Tom Brady have this weird father-son relationship. Robert Kraft loves him. Like that's his child. He probably likes him more than he likes his own son. So the only way I see this being not coming to fruition like that is because Robert Kraft gets involved. If you go back to the whole Jimmy Garoppolo situation, Jimmy Garoppolo was supposed to be the heir apparent to Tom Brady. That was the whole setup. That was the whole deal. Tom Brady started feeling a little uncomfortable because Jimmy G started to show out a little bit. And next thing you know, Jimmy G's getting sent to San Francisco. And why did that happen? That's because Robert Kraft got involved and forced Bill Belichick's hand. So I could see if Bill Belichick has his way, Tom Brady finishing his career for another team. But if Robert Kraft gets involved, I think Tom Brady stays a Patriot. And does it seem like I'm sitting on the fence here? Because
it's so tough. It's so tough.
It is. If I had to say, because what makes the most sense is winning, and winning leads to championships, and championships leads to more money. So I will say 55% chance that Tom Brady finishes his career on another team.
Ooh, 50%. Yeah, I think it's
55.
Yeah, 55. I think it's a fair look, and it's going to be interesting, really, because we got to see how he performs this year. By all accounts, he looks sharp. I think he's a master of that offense. He understands. Look, he's not going to take many chances. He's just got to get the ball around. But I think the thing that's going to hinder his progress this year is the fact that he lost Gronkowski, and to have a tight end of that caliber, does he replace it? Does that production get replaced? Obviously, especially with that offense, but. Obviously, time in and time out, we've seen Tom Brady, whenever we've said, he's going to diminish, he just rises to the occasion. But I do want to ask you this before we transition to college football talk. If you could give Matthew Stafford one trait from Tom Brady, what would it be? Because of the fact that when we compare, look, Stafford's learning a new offense and it looks different. But Tom Brady out there, the way I can describe it is he executes. He knows what he's doing. He uses every pass, in order to facilitate the offense. And he does look like each time he's out there, he gets better in terms of executing. There was a series that was run in terms of practice where he threw like 14 balls and not one was batted down, not one went to the wrong spot, not one was dropped. And you're just like, oh my God, pinpoint accuracy. He obviously gets the ball out of his hands quickly. He's been in that offense, so he knows. Where Stafford obviously has sporadically made some great plays and great throws to Marvin Jones and TJ Hawkinson, but it doesn't look the same. You see the crispness of Tom Brady. And I guess for me, I would say is if I could give Matthew Stafford anything, is just that edge, that because I think partly because what do you see? What did you hear Tom Brady say? And Matthew Stafford said it when I asked him the question. What does Tom Brady always talk about? He talks about and he posts, look, and I know it drives him. I know because partly we use the same thing here at the podcast. What did he post? If you follow Tom Brady on Twitter, he posted his draft card. And still to this day, when he looks at accolades and when he looks at stuff, he also tells himself, damn, I was draft pick number 199 in this league, a sixth rounder. He tells himself that. Whereas Stafford kind of has been given a lot, given big deals, given extensions without having to earn it. Now, it's not his fault. I won't begrudge the man for getting it. But at the same time, I just want to give Stafford that undying hunger, that starvation, that no matter what I do, I just can't walk this earth without winning. And I just want to give Stafford that edge. I think he doesn't have the edge. And that's what it appears like, is that he does the job, he knows the job, but there's something missing. And I think it's that edge. It's that competitive, like, damn, I'm the guy that was drafted 200th. Nobody respected me. I was passed over, and nobody gave me a chance. And so every single day I step foot on that football field, whether it's in practice or a game, I'm going to prove to myself that, hey, nobody respected me. And look, 6 rings, y'all, 6. And I just wish that could be instilled and injected in massive doses in our quarterback.
So what you're saying is Matt Stafford's not challenged.
I just think that there's a difference. Look at the difference.
I would agree with that. No, I would agree with that because Stafford came in and he was number 1 overall draft pick. He was highly touted. Basically since day one, this has been his franchise. Tom Brady walked into a completely different situation. He had to go wrestle that job away from Drew Bledsoe. So a totally different situation here. But I get that. If there was one thing that I could give Matt Stafford that Tom Brady has, and as you were asking that question before you went on to explain your point of view on it, I was thinking precision. Tom Brady is so precise. He knows exactly where he's going with the football, and he knows when he's got to get it there, and he knows exactly how much touch to put on the ball. Tom Brady is so precise and so efficient at everything he does. If there was one thing I could give to Matt Stafford that I think would help expedite his game and transcend him as a player here in Detroit, it would be precision. To be so precise. And honestly, his arm is a cannon. The guy has a rocket for an arm. That was the thing that he had when he came into the league, and he still has one. Sometimes, though, you need to be a little bit more precise. You've got double coverage over the middle. That's where you want the ball to go. Probably not the best decision to throw it there, right? Tom Brady will find a way to either float it over or behind whoever is covering the wide receiver. Matt Stafford's going to try to rocket it in there. He's going to try to bullet it through the guys. So it's a different way, and it's a different mentality. Tom Brady is so precise and so on time and so on cue with everything he does. Matt Stafford, I think, leans a little bit too heavy on his God-given talent, having that strong arm, having that rocket, and that cannon for his right arm, that sometimes it gets him in a little bit of trouble. And if you could somehow dial him back a little bit and just be like, look, timing route, you 3-step drop, let the ball out. You got to count on your receiver to be there. Just be precise with everything. And it's just repetition. You watch the drills with Tom Brady. It's just repetition. He's doing drill after drill after drill after drill, and they all look the same. There's nothing that's different. They all look the same. And it's just muscle memory. So it would be precision for me. And I agree with you. I don't think Matt Stafford's ever really been challenged. And that's why when you go and you look at a backup quarterback, I mean, look at who's on this team. Tom Savage fails. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. There have been times where this organization could have gone out and brought in a viable backup quarterback, somebody who could really push for the starting job. Or if Matt Stafford was to get hurt, you don't necessarily have to worry about waving the white flag. I mean, if Matt Stafford goes down week 2, season's over. Absolutely over. You don't have a chance. Tom Savage sucks and fails blows too. You don't have a backup quarterback here on this team. And look, 20 teams in the league have backup quarterbacks where you're like, man, there's no chance in hell I want that guy starting. I get that. I totally understand that. But the Detroit Lions, over the course of Matt Stafford's tenure, there have been at least 6 different opportunities for the Detroit Lions to go out and bring somebody in here who you wouldn't just kind of turn to the side and be like, cool, the season's over. You would look at him and be like, all right, we've got a 50-50 shot in just about every game. We're going to be competitive until the end. And that's really all you need from a backup. That's what you want from a backup. You just want to be competitive. You want to have a shot to win games. And the way the Detroit Lions are put together, and ever since Matt Stafford's basically been quarterback, I mean, Sean Hill had a couple really good years, and he was probably the best backup quarterback the Detroit Lions have had. But after that, it's been Matt Stafford's rodeo, and all the other guys are just kind of riding shoddy, and they're not very good. That's why Matt Stafford's got to play with a broken back. That's why he's got to play with a finger that's bent to the side. That's why he's got to play with broken bones in his hand. And it's not just like it's his left hand, it's his throwing hand, it's his right hand. The way this organization is put together, they do give him a free pass. And that is frustrating.
Yeah, I posed this question on Twitter at our Twitter page, at Detroit Podcast. You can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Lions fan gets in, he says, longevity. Ken hates everything, writes us and says, the ability to throw 3 to 5 yard passes accurately for an entire football game. Detroit Sports Nation gets in and says vision, and JLH tells us that he writes in, and I think the common argument that people use to discredit Tom Brady, he says Bill Belichick. So a lot of people still to this day will not give Tom Brady credit. They'll say, you know what, it's Bill Belichick. He's a great head coach. He's the greatest legend of all time. I do think it's a mixture of both. It's a great talking point. It's a great debate. But I do think that Tom Brady is a legend, and many people we just want a little bit more from our quarterback. And even when I asked Stafford about the connection to Hawkinson, a lot of people paid attention to the fact that he gave kind of a professional answer. But he is an emotional guy. He does get mad on the field when plays don't go right. It's just the thing that I think people really, really want Stafford to do is to kind of elevate the program. And as a number 1 pick, that's kind of an expectation, is that, hey, pick up the program and make these guys better. Can he do it? It's yet to be seen. It's a big year. Even though he's going to learn a new system, it's a huge year for Matthew Stafford, and it's going to be fascinating as we take this journey in 2019 with the Lions, what it's going to look like. All right, time for a timeout. We got to show love to 2 sponsors. In second half of the podcast, I can't wait to get your reactions to what you heard from Jim Harbaugh. Opened up a little bit, got on a podcast. That's why I love this platform. I love podcasting because it's free-flowing. You get an opportunity to have long-form conversations, and Jim Harbaugh said some things. Stay with us. We'll talk about Michigan State, second half of the podcast. Adam, the reason why we can keep the lights on and the microphones hot here in Sterling Heights is because we got 2 great sponsors. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality brand name new and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. For all information and to see all the deals and the promotions, go visit today, MotorCityPawnBrokers.com. The pawn shop has a great staff, and they're willing to provide great customer service. That's how they built the business over the past decade. So go today. Visit MotorCityPawnBrokers.com, or if you're in the area, if you're near Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, or Warren, go into one of the stores. They'll definitely take care of you. If you've agreed or disagreed with any of the content that we've displayed today and talked about, feel free to head on over to Flick. It's a great new chat application that we're running here in Detroit sports, and it's so fun. When we talk, when we debate Detroit sports, when we're talking about Stafford v. Tom Brady, if you disagree, if you think Stafford has the tools and it's the fault of ownership, it's Martha's fault, it's the fault of all the bad head coaches, go on over to Flick and we'll carry on the conversation there. It's a great way to carry on the conversation that we have here on the podcast via a large group chat application. Right now, we're around 100 members, and we're growing every single day. I love it. I love the fact that when there's a big sporting event, you have an opportunity to watch it live and to interact with the fans. All you got to do is go to either the Google Play Store or to the App Store and type in Flick Chat, and then you're in. All you got to do is hit that little cross button, join a group, and our group name is all lowercase DSP, or if you're following us on Twitter, we'll send out an invite link every single day. So there's no excuse. So there's no reason why you can't be part of Detroit's growing sports community over there at Flick. All right, cuz, back here on Doc and Jock, episode 314. Thanks, everybody, for downloading and finding our podcast. We're available everywhere, anywhere your favorite podcast is located. All you got to type in is Detroit Sports Podcast. I want to get your sense of it. I know you listened. What did you make of Jim Harbaugh on Pardon My Take?
I thought he was really candid. I enjoyed listening to him. I thought he was really, really candid. I found it to be surprising because it is a Barstool podcast, and he seems to have developed a relationship with Barstool and Pardon My Take, which doesn't seem very Jim Harbaugh-esque. Am I out of line here? Am I the only one who finds it weird?
Well, here's the connection, cuz. And it's all about perception. It's all about relationships. The CEO, the founding member of Barstool, is a Michigan grad. Dave Portnoy went to Michigan, and he loves himself some Michigan. So when that happens, that kind of eases the way a little bit, because if you listen...
It greases the wheel.
It greases the wheel. It goes, okay, we're not going to get slammed here. They didn't say, do you think you should be fired? They didn't, call him out. Then they did talk about and challenge his record, but it's not slanted in that direction. So that's where I think the relationship is built, is through ownership and things like that.
I just find it to be anti Jim Harbaugh. Like this is not a normal Harbaugh thing. But all that being said, I found it to be very refreshing. You got to see a more human side of him. He's weird. He's a quirky dude. He's very strange. And some of the things that falls out of his mouth, you're just kind of like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But I found it to be refreshing because it was like you were sitting in a room with your dad and you were just talking. Do you know what I'm saying? Like my dad, right? And my dad sometimes says some shit that we can't repeat. And if we did, we would be in a lot of trouble. And I felt trouble. I felt like it was like sitting in a room with your dad where you're just talking. You're just talking about talk. And it like no holds barred. You can say whatever you want. We're just talking like it's just you and me. And I really felt like that's what you got here, which is a side that you don't ever get to see of Jim Harbaugh. All that being said, some of the things he said, I'm scratching my head like, dude, what is your problem? like, are you a Martian? He called Michigan co-Big Ten champs last year. Excuse me. Did you get to go play in Indy for the Big Ten championship? Did you? No, bro. If I remember correctly, you finished what? Was it third or was it fourth last year? Either way, you weren't playing for a championship. There was no co-Big Ten champion. Yeah. Get the hell out of here. What is that? Cool, man. You tied the same record that OSU had in the Big Ten East. You know what that gets you? It gets you nothing. It gets you a bowl game where you get to go get housed by Florida. That's what it gets you. What is this guy talking about? When he said that, I was like, are you serious? Like, sometimes his point of view is so distorted. It just blows my mind. Cool. You want to spit shine a turd. You know what? It's still a turd. You know what I'm saying? Like last season was a turd. You rock and rolled all the way up into that final game. And then in that final game, you got housed. You got your pants pulled down, and you are no co-Big Ten champ. Get that noise out of here. You didn't get to go play in Indy. You didn't lose a game in Indy. No. You shared a record with Ohio State as far as the Big Ten East goes. You played for nothing is how that breaks down.
And I think a lot of his comments you said, I think, is tougher because sometimes locally we only have like maybe 10 minutes and there's so many questions people want to ask that he gives kind of these professional answers.
He gives like the longest winded answers.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't have that opportunity to get out what you need. But he did also kind of bring up some things that were a little bit anti-player, I think, a little bit in terms of disclosing that he was not really thrilled that a bunch of the players, seniors that were going to be exiting just decided that, hey, you know what, I'm not going to play in the bowl game. And he used the word competitiveness. And I think it was an interesting kind of choice of words because I do think Jim Harbaugh is calculated at times. And what word did he use? Competitive. He didn't say, something different. He meant to say that, hey, if you're about the brand and you're about the team, you should be in the bowl game. But at the same time, many people that heard that disagreed and said, hey, you know what? These athletes are risking a lot. And they're not just risking hundreds of dollars. They're risking millions of dollars where if they don't do well or they get hurt, they just saw one of their own, Jake Butt, go to play in a game really that's meaningless, and he gets hurt, and his career's been impacted. So people have seen that right there in-house. So to be tone deaf to that, I thought was a little bit surprising because for me, I think you and I are kind of in the same boat. We're pro-player. I obviously understand the team situation. I understand Harbaugh wants his guys. But in essence, I know the hardcore fans, we talk about the bowl games, but in essence, if you're not in the playoff, big picture, the bowl games are meaningless.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. In the end, if you're not playing for a championship, then what are you doing, right? It's just an exhibition game. That's all it is. Cool. Your conference will get some money. You will get a sweet grab bag. You get to go out there and hang out in Florida or Texas or California, or if you get a really crappy bowl game, you get to hang out at Ford Field. Do you know what I'm saying? Big deal. Big deal. It's an exhibition game. It doesn't do anything for you. Now, some guys who need the help can go out there and showcase some of their talent, and it can help move them up draft boards. But for guys who are already established, take last year, a guy like Rashawn Gary. What good was playing in that bowl game going to do for Rashawn Gary?
Nothing.
You see where Rashawn Gary went? He didn't need any help. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't do a guy like that any good. And you brought up Jake Butt. Jake Butt's a prime example. Jake Butt was a tight end going into that bowl game, was going to be a late first round pick. Otherwise, he was going to be a second round pick. That's where he was going to go. That's where everybody had him slotted. And you know what? He goes out, blows out his ACL. I think he ended up getting drafted in the 5th or 6th round, if I remember correctly. And that's a huge loss for when you look at it and you look at the contract. That is a massive loss. You're missing a ton of guaranteed money, and the way things are slotted now, that's a huge blow for a player in the pocketbook. So when guys don't want to play in these games, I get it. And to say it hurts their legacy, no, man. Their legacy was everything that they did the 2 and 3 years prior to sitting out this bowl game. It was everything they did that season. Look, if your team isn't good enough to be competing for a national championship, who cares? It's an exhibition game. It's an exhibition game. You know what? The best part about bowl games is it gets the younger guys more involved. You basically get a preview of what you've got to work with for next season. That's essentially what it is. You get more practices, and your guys that really didn't get a whole lot of time to play this year get to go out there and play a little bit more. That's the whole point of having a bowl game. That's pretty much what it is. That, and maybe your conference or your school gets a little bit of money, but in the end, usually the bowl games cost schools and cost everybody a ton of cash. If you haven't had a chance, Dan Wetzel does a great job in a book called Death to the BCS. It is exceptional. It's a quick read. I recommend everybody go pick that up. thumb through it, he breaks down how corrupt college football is and where all the money goes. Because unless you're a top-of-the-line school, Michigan's a top-of-the-line school, unless you're a top-of-the-line school playing in a top-of-the-line bowl game, chances are for you to go to a bowl game, it's going to cost your school and your university and your program more money to send your team and to send your facilities there. It's mind-boggling. It really is. But look, I don't think it hurts your legacy.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree. I do want to ask your sense of expectations now, because obviously whenever you're talking to anybody affiliated with Michigan, obviously I asked Tom Brady and I said, okay, what are your thoughts on Michigan this year? And he said, go blue, baby, got to beat Ohio State. It's very important. Obviously, people are definitely looking at this year as being a year that the program maybe takes a step forward. Does Michigan have to win the Big Ten? Do they have to beat Ohio State, especially with how things are shaking out? Are the expectations fair this year for Michigan and what they can expect to perform and achieve this year?
I think having the expectation that you beat Ohio State, I think that's completely fair. I think it should be expected at this point. Look, Ohio State has a brand new quarterback, right? They have a transfer coming in. They've got when I say brand new head coach, he's a new head coach, but he did things last year. So kind of temperament that a little bit. But you've got a new head coach. You've got a new quarterback. You lost a bunch of pieces all over that team. It was a chaotic year last year. This year is just getting underway, and there's already some chaos going on following Ohio State. So I think the expectation should be, on top of that, they're coming to your house. They're coming to your house. Can we get that old Under Armour commercial? Protect this house. It is fair to expect Michigan to beat Ohio State this year. It's 100% fair. Michigan should beat Ohio State this year. You know, the thing that gets kind of weird for me, and I get into arguments with people on Twitter all the time about this, is there's this question that can be posed. Is Michigan's season a failure if they lose to Ohio State but get to play in the Big Ten championship game and win the Big Ten championship? Is their season a failure? And then you'll have half the fan base say yes. You'll have half the fan base say no. And it becomes really, really weird because there is so much emphasis placed on this game against Ohio State. And for me specifically, right, I have bigger goals. I have bigger aspirations for this program. Yeah, beating Ohio State is important. I hate Ohio State. Here in South Bend, one of my buddies out here is from Columbus. He played at West Virginia. He was on Green Bay's practice squad. He was a wide receiver. And he grew up in Columbus, and we have a Michigan floor mat outside of our door. And whenever he comes over, he makes sure to wipe his feet extra hard. And again, he didn't go to Ohio State. He played at West Virginia, but he grew up in that culture. And me and him go back and forth about this all the time. And we just, it's just this rivalry. I hate Ohio State. He hates Michigan. It's the way it is, right? But that game is important, but it doesn't have to impact your entire season. It doesn't. Michigan can lose this game this year as long as they win the Big Ten. As long as they win the Big Ten championship, I don't care. Do you know what I'm saying? And I know for some fans that's going to sound almost like blasphemy, but if Michigan goes on and has an excellent season, their only loss is to Ohio State. They get to go play in the Big Ten championship, and they end up winning that, and they are the fourth highest rated team, and they get to go play in the college football playoff. You mean to tell me that's a bad season? That's a bad season. That right there. You won the Big Ten championship, which you haven't done since what was it, 97 or was it 2001? I don't remember off the top of my head. It's been forever. It's been so damn long. I don't even know what the trophy looks like anymore. And then you get to go play in the college football playoff. Come on, man.
No, I do agree. Championships are more important, but
yeah.
Remember, it's the biggest game of the year. It's a storied rivalry. And
I get it.
No,
I get it.
I don't think you're going to sway people once they firmly establish their position. I'm in your boat. I agree. I think that winning a championship is super important. You can move forward with that because defeating Ohio State definitely is always important, but I always think, too, that probably most people would want to win the Big Ten and defeat Ohio State and marry that together. They want that to take place in the same season.
Sure.
So that would,
for sure.
But I think that, winning a trophy would definitely ease a lot of tension where they would definitely move that to the background. I don't think you're going to hear people say fire Harbaugh if he loses to Ohio State but wins a Big Ten championship, because the lasting memory will be obviously disappointed that you lost to Ohio State, but you're going to end the year celebrating on a field in Indianapolis. So I think that's where I think people will definitely remember the good feeling, the good vibes they had winning the Big Ten championship. Now, I do want to switch gears, talk about Mark D'Antonio and MSU football. Obviously, we're going to talk about the offense and some big questions that are facing this offense, because that is the unit that everyone's kind of questioning, especially with Mark D'Antonio being a defensive coach. Obviously, that defense is going to be locked and loaded, because I can't believe it. And some people were surprised at the reaction because the jersey reveal had already taken place. But in talking about it with people in the media, we all said the same thing. Once it was released earlier this year, we all thought, God, that's so effing awful that they're never, ever going to release it. They'll never wear that jersey. But once Michigan State had their media day and actually people took photos of it and shared it, the reaction was swift and just all across the nation, myself included. Mine was right to the point. I said, wow, that alternate jersey set jerseys back. It's ugly. It's god-awful. It's pointless. And for Michigan State to allow Nike to do that to them, look, if you're an athletic director and that comes across your desk, why are you not saying, get that fucking shit out of here? That's awful. It's god-awful. I mean, if you look at that, and your first reaction is, all right, I'll let it slide, you're at fault. Something's wrong. Because they posted it online and universally, and even Michigan State supporters hate it. Everybody's like, that's the worst thing I have ever seen. It's so ugly, so terrible. And obviously, those that are pro-Michigan are going to hate it no matter what. They're not going to be slanted in the direction of trying to, promote Michigan State. But I'm a State supporter. The first thought I had was, that's ugly. What are we, superheroes out there trying to go out and play football? Why would they allow that? And that's what happens when you give up control to some organization that doesn't have your best interest at heart. And I don't understand, too, if you're Nike, that's not going to sell. Who on earth would buy that? Who'd want to see that on the field? It's ugly. Like, if I'm watching a State game and that's coming across, I'm like, I'm going to turn this off for a minute. I don't need to be watching this. Let me go to the radio. It's so bad. I don't know why they stuck with it. I don't know why they displayed it. It's so awful, and I don't truly believe those uniforms will hit the bodies of any MSU athletes. The reaction online was palpable, it was real, and everybody universally hated it.
Yeah, they're absolutely horrible. And I think the premise, the design premise is okay, but it's the color scheme that really screws everything up. The color scheme is absolutely atrocious. It's like a hunter green. It's a green. It's like a green that has nothing to do with Michigan State. I don't understand why you would go with this color. And if you're the heads of Michigan State, why aren't you putting your foot down, being like, no, we've got to change this a little bit. We've got to come up with something new. How does this get passed? How is this? Yeah, that's cool. Let's go with this. That jersey looks great. No, it looks like vomit. And then it looks like vomit vomited on vomit. It's awful. It's like this fluorescent green, and then it's like this crazy weird hunter. I don't understand it. Look, Michigan State, I think, has a great color scheme, and I think they have a great jersey. There's no need to add this blinding green to it. No need whatsoever. If you wanted to change this jersey up, you wanted to make it a little bit different, there are other colors of green that you could have utilized, or you could have utilized black. I think going with a black pants or even a black jersey with the darker green and the white. Oh, I think that would be awesome. A lot better than whatever this is. This is brutal. Brutal. I don't understand. I think jerseys have come a long way, and a lot of that has to do with what goes on in Oregon, and they do a fantastic job pumping out 9, 10, 12 different jerseys every single year, and a lot of them are really interesting. A lot of them are really cool. They have a lot of cool little designs, little intricate things. But sometimes, man, you got to put your crayons away, and you got to pick up some of them colors. And especially here, right? So on the West Coast, that's cool, especially up in Oregon. That's great, right? It's a different type of place, the different type of area. Here in the Midwest, that shit doesn't fly. That doesn't work. Like that's hurting every sense that I have. Like my sense of taste is now numb. My eyes hurt. My ears are bleeding. These colors are just blinding and deafening, and they're atrocious. And I know this is the second time that we've seen these jerseys, but the outrage that you had the first time you seen them, to then come back again with them.
I know, right?
And to allow them and not alter them in any fashion
only Michigan State
blows my mind.
Only Michigan State would release 2 awful jerseys and get double the negative reaction. That's how that was crazy, right?
Yeah, it's nuts. I just don't get it. I don't get it. What was Michigan State thinking here?
What were they thinking? And it's just fodder for Michigan State being laughed at. But I do think it's going to. I don't think it's going to see the light of day. It can't. That would be the ultimate F you guys. Yeah, y'all hate it. Here it is. All right. One last thing in regards to Michigan State, because I do think that as we progress and preview, one of the biggest questions that we got to dive into is, what's going to happen with that offense, okay? Obviously, when you rush for less than 100 yards, and that's one of your big traits is rushing the football against Michigan, and you have this great defense in 2018, but the offense just stifled anything that you had going forward. You had no momentum. You scored 3 points in the bowl game. You left the season with a negative taste in your mouth with the entire fan base saying, hey, uproot everything. Just let it go. Blow up the offense and start over. Try to get with the times. Try to get into 2019 with these spread offenses and scoring points where all the fans are watching teams out west in Alabama and Clemson and be really exciting. Yet we're stuck with check downs. We're stuck with running. So they made shakeups, but all they did was take the pieces that were already there and shuffle them around. So that's one question that people have is, how's that going to look where you move people around? Luckily, Warner's not calling plays. That's fine. But I do think that the offense probably needed a complete retooling. There's going to be obviously a lot of questions with Lewerke. There's going to be questions regarding that offensive line, the wide receivers and tight ends. But for me, I'm aware of what's being said in regards to what's D'Antonio's philosophy. And his philosophy is, we want to pound the rock. Well, obviously, if you want to pound the rock, the biggest question I have for Michigan State's offense is going to be, who's going to be the number one back? Because obviously they've had some good running backs. Some gone to the league, some have been productive. But, since Langford has left Michigan State, nobody since 2014 has rushed for over 1,000 yards in a season. And some people are wondering, okay, who's going to step up? Some people are backing Ladarius Jefferson, Anthony Williams Jr., Eli Collins. But the assumption is going to be that it's going to be Connor Hayward this year. He's going to take over. But now that LJ Scott's gone, people are kind of wondering, how is this running game going to look? And it just kind of looks like LJ Scott made a mistake in declaring for the draft. The running game is going to be important, obviously, for Mark D'Antonio, because he truly believes, and he's willing to defend it, that, hey, in order to win football games, you got to pound the rock. You got to run. So with that said, then the biggest question mark I have is, who's going to step up? Who's going to be the number one running back for the Michigan State Spartans?
It's funny. It's like you're in my head. Now, guys, mind you, we posed a question on a rundown, and there was a link to an article, and it had a bunch of different stuff. And for me, before I even got going into this article, it was, who's the number one running back? Who is going to tote the rock? Because I'm not expecting Michigan State to have a dramatic change in philosophy when it comes to how they're going to run their offense. It's still Mark D'Antonio's team. He likes to run the rock, or he likes to pound the rock. He likes to run the ball. And who's going to carry the ball now? Who is that number one running back? On top of all that, what is Brian Lewerke, right? You don't know what Brian Lewerke is. So how can you take off some of that pressure from him? You have a good running game. You have a solid running back. Who is that running back? Nobody knows. And for me, it is, who is going to be the number one running back? It's weird that we're in lockstep on this. Normally, we see things totally different when it comes to our college football teams. But I'm right there with you, man. It's who is going to be lining up behind Brian Lewerke, and who's going to be taking those handoffs, because I don't know who it's going to be, and I don't know if it's going to be an impactful player. And if you're Michigan State, I think you need an impactful player at running back. And just because of the way the offense is designed, and it's because you're not 100% sure what you're going to get out of Brian Lewerke. I mean, hopefully he comes back to form and he's the guy he was 2 years ago and he's not the guy he was last year. But we won't know until we get into the season. And by that time, it could be too late.
Absolutely.
So it's running back for me.
It's running back. Like I said, a lot of questions that we're going to dive deeper in upcoming episodes regarding Lewerke, regarding the coaches, regarding D'Antonio. We're going to talk about the comparisons between Matt Patricia, D'Antonio, and Jim Harbaugh. We'll talk all about that in future editions. So now we set the scene, we set the table as to where we think, obviously, when your coach comes out last year and says, hey, no, I'm not changing my philosophy, it works. So we just got to execute better. Then you believe him. I do think Lewerke will add an extra wrinkle in terms of when plays break down, but we will take a look at those running backs. We'll take a look at Lewerke in upcoming episodes. But yeah, that offense and that running game definitely will be a focal point coming out of media days and what we're hearing around Michigan State University. Great podcast, cuz. I enjoyed spending the hour talking to you. Oh, man. You can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and the show will find you each and every Thursday. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.